Hi friends, my name is Mackenzie, also known as Emtothethird, and this is the Emtothethird Everything I Knit and Spun and Crocheted in 2024 video. I have a playlist that I will pop up in the cards of previous years that I have done this. My 2020 video is still, I think, the most viewed video ever on my channel. I really love doing these just as like a reminder for myself. But last year I actually did not make this video. I started off 2024 very burnt out and spent most of the year kind of figuring out different ways to be doing things so that I didn't get to that point. And so I don't have one for last year, but I'm very happy to be feeling inspired and ready for 2025. So I'm going to go through, I have a little pile right off screen. I'm just going to go top to bottom, which kind of means that I'll be doing like accessories and smaller items and then getting into sweaters. Of course, the first one is what I am wearing, which is the Sunshine Tee by Andrea Gahn, which I modified to add this intarsia circle on the front. And it's probably one of my most worn knits, maybe even ever. But I'm really, really thrilled with how this turned out. I used a newer like tonal version of Dyed in the Wool from Spin Cycles for my main color. It is in the colorway Scranton. And then I used my sock yarn base for the circle in the center. Yeah, I love this top. I think it fits great. I'd highly recommend the pattern and all of Andrea's patterns. And yeah, I'm just very happy with that. So we're starting off strong. I did knit several pairs of socks this year, which is very exciting. The first and most recent ones, if you watched my Vlogmas, are my Advent socks from Woolens and Nosh. This is my third year doing it. So there's a different colored stripe for every day. I did these ones toe up and also did an afterthought heel. And I am really happy with the way they fit, the way they feel. I love this base. It is her Superwash Tarhi base. It's just like dense and cushy. And yeah, I'm very excited to get some wear into these. I also for Christmas got a pair of shoes that are like this seafoam green kind of like loafer style. And it looks so cute with these like peeking out the top. So that's fun. I know, like styling socks. Who knew? But as a knitter, your socks become very precious and like fun. And I definitely have more socks on the horizon for 2025. Last year for my Christmas Eve cast on, I cast on my very first pair of socks knit with my hand spun yarn. The fiber is a bat that I received as a gift from Lindsay, who is also known as Artifacts of Appreciation. It has little blips of chartreuse and mauve and fuchsia, which she made inspired by my podcast. So that was a very, very fun gift. I mean, I think I received those bats in 2020. So it took like a few years for me to spin it up and then knit it. I held it double with mohair, a black mohair silk from Knitting for Olive. And I think that was maybe a little overkill in terms of like the needle that I had, because I cast them on away from my house because we like traveled for Christmas last year. And so I was like, I'm just gonna bring my sock needles and some yarn, and then I probably should have gone up a needle size, and then because my hand spun was just a little thick, and then holding it double and then doing that all smooshed on a US 1 wasn't the most enjoyable knitting experience. So these took me a little bit longer to knit than anticipated, but I really love them. They're super cushy. They're definitely not gonna get any holes in them. Yeah, I just really love them. And I actually, one of my finished spinning projects for this year is another Artifacts of Appreciation bat set. Let me grab that skein. So this is the skein that I made with the other bat that I have from Lindsay, and it was actually like 5 bats, and it's like a self-striping sock spinning kit, and that's kind of how I did it. I divvied them up into strips and then spun 1 through 5. So I'm very eager to knit this up because it's going to be very fun and striped. And I chain plied it, so just to keep the continuity with the stripes. And it's a pretty hefty skein, so I'm excited to cast that on probably this year at some point. I do still have to I do still have to like finish this skein because I never set the twist. But I have another spinning project on the wheel, so I was kind of waiting to finish that one to do them all at the same time. Also, sorry for my pup, Maple. What are you doing back there? Just being a nuisance? All my socks are very well loved and worn, so that's why they don't look pristine. But that's a sign of wear and use, so that's good. This is another pair that I finished this year using Lang Super Socks in the colorway Rome. I actually saw someone at my knit night that I host here in Portland, Oregon, knitting with this colorway, and I was like, what colorway is that? And while I was sitting on the couch during knit night, I like ordered myself and a couple other people at knit night skeins of it, because it's just such a good colorway. I just did like a vanilla latte sock pattern, which there is an actual, I think it's a still free pattern on Ravelry called the Vanilla Latte Socks. I just follow the stitch repeat, which is like, there's like garter ridges instead of like full ribbing on that. And it's just nice to have something fun to do when you're knitting, you know, a fairly plain pair of socks. I also knit these Progressive Pride stripe socks for my partner Kay. I cast these on and knit them throughout the month of June and July, which actually Pride in Portland is more in July than June, despite June being like the official Pride month. And so I knit on these while walking in the Portland Pride Parade, which was very cute. And yeah, I just like, these were my big gay knit of the year. And I also made a tube sock pair for our niece who wanted to match their DOK. So that was very sweet. So I post like some extra pictures of her matching K. Next, I have my Colorwork cuff. This is the Colorwork Cuff Club pattern, the first pattern from Summerly Knits. I just was so drawn to this like folksy flower motif. So I got the Colorwork Cuff Club pattern. I've knit a couple single pairs of socks, which I will not show off because they are not technically finished. And I'm working on the second ones. So I just love this motif so much. The color story was speaking to me. This base color, I think I've used now in 3 or 4 pairs of socks, like as an accent, as the whole sock. It is from Earl Grey Fiber Company. I was looking for some orange yarns a while ago, and the store I work at just didn't have any orange sock yarns. Now you're like, this isn't technically orange, and I know that. But I went to another local yarn store and like was looking through their sort of orangey sock skeins because I needed it for color work on something. So I ended up buying like 3 sock skeins from Indie Dyers that were like rusty orange, pumpkin orange, and then I got this one, and oh, I could get so much use out of this color. I don't even know what it is. It's like browny orange. I don't know. It's just lovely. And yeah, paired with that like chartreuse moment, that is Spin Cycle's Bad Egg. It's just so nice. So yeah, those are definitely one of my favorite knits of the year, just in terms of like color. I also knit very much in the same sort of color family, scene, whatever, a Maxine hot water bottle cover. So a lot of Americans that I talk to are like, do you use hot water bottles? And I was unaware of the amazingness of hot water bottles until for most of my life. And then when I was in my teens, I traveled to Australia during the summer, our summer, their winter, to visit my family. And I have family in Tasmania and like right outside of Hobart. And so they had hot water bottles because that's just how they would like warm the bed before getting in for the night. And we were all like, amazing, I love that. And so I've had a series of hot water bottles throughout my adulthood, especially when I was much younger, living in like houses in the Bay Area that aren't insulated as well. And then when I moved to Boston, you know, you get a little hot water bottle, put it under the blanket while you're sitting on the couch. Great for period cramps. And I have another one that I knit, like when I first moved to Boston, I did knit my other hot water bottle cover, but this one, I mean, with that color work, so fun. This is all stash yarn. Some of it is fingering weight held double to kind of get like that DK weight. And then this main color is from, I think, is like a farm yarn that I got one time. So yeah, that was a really fun project to put together. And then I was able to teach a class on it in December. So that was a really fun and satisfying way to kind of, yeah, share my love of color work and hot water bottles. And then this year I also made a couple, the simple thing. So I know it looks like a pattern that shall not be named, but this is free. And frankly, I think the ends look a lot nicer. This pattern solves some of the problems that I had with the other more popular pattern. So yeah, I have this bright red one, which I was so excited about. It's in La Bienne's Cashmerino. And then this one is in my yarn, Sueño, which is a sport weight, non-superwash, superfine merino. And this color is one that I have been trying to get, and I finally got it. Not sure if I'm gonna be able to repeat it, but I'll find a way to get here again. But I was so stoked with this color, I just needed it as an accent. And yeah, I love wearing these to shows when I'm vending because I tend to get very hot at shows. Like just walking around, standing, talking to people. And so this is a great way to wear something that I have knit in my yarn without overheating. Also, I have a very good friend, Zoe, who I do a lot of vending with. And we have the issue that we will show up, like if we're going out to breakfast and I'm like, are you wearing your pants that are the same pants that I have? And she's like, yes, I am. And I'm like, dang it. And so she reached out to me and was like, I'm about to cast on the pattern that shall not be named. And I was like, oh my God, that's so funny. I'm about to cast that on. And she's like, I'm looking for a yarn that is like a bright red. And I was like, you mean like this? And I like sent her a picture of the skein I had wound up earlier in the day. And she was like, exactly. And I was like, well, I'm definitely not going to use this whole skein. So we split the ball in half. I gave it to her. She knit her the simple thing. I knit mine. And then of course the next time we went out to breakfast, not only were we both wearing our cute little scarves, but we were also wearing like matching sweaters, matching pants. And I was like, oh no, we really did it this time. And even the staff was like, did you guys? And we were like, no, I just happens to us. And now, funny enough, it started happening with Tim, my co-host for Sibling Energy, where we're just like wearing the same colors. And I'm like, God, really? I love that as a marker of true friendship. So this year was also, I think I'm not alone in this. Like, I feel like I've been seeing this pattern get a lot of hype, and frankly, it's hype that I believe it deserves. I knit 6 muscle burras this year, one of which is mine, but I cannot locate. But most of them were in Spin Cycle dyed in the wool. So these are the 2. This was the first one I made this year. Spin Cycle started off 2024 with a muscle burra dyed in the wool knit along, and I was stuck inside. We had a terrible ice storm. It was either in January or February of last year, and I was like, I'm gonna do the knit along. And I had these skeins in my stash of their colorway called Cold Comfort, and it just like all felt very kismet. It also felt like the perfect project to work on while sort of dealing with the amount of burnout I was feeling. And so I cast this on and I just loved it. That's one side, this is the other. I have sort of historically had issues with hats that actually fit me super well. I think it is an underrated issue to get like a well-fitting hat. And like, I think that, what should I say? I think what I mean to say is that it's harder to get a hat to fit than people make it out to be. And I've made a lot of hats that are too big, a lot of hats that are too tight and that end up like smooshing up. And I just feel like I really cracked the code with the muscle burra for me and this yarn. And I ended up I made one for my mom, one for my best friend, one for my sister, and then like 3 that ended up in my possession. This one was supposed to be the one for Molly, but I didn't love the way the colors were working out. So I was just like, well, I'm finishing it. It's for me. This one was intentionally for me. And then that 3rd one was also intentionally for me, but I don't know where it is. So there we are. So yeah, I really love this pattern. If you have not made it yet, I mean, me and everyone else who's made it. I think Isolde did a sale at the beginning of the year, and it was because there are 30,000 patterns, like projects on Ravelry of this hat. That seems crazy, but I'm pretty sure that that is accurate. And so those are only the ones that are logged. Like I have one logged, but I've made 6. So it's a pretty awesome pattern. If you haven't checked it out yet, I would definitely recommend it. And I know that a bunch of my Discord members have ventured into muscle burra land. If you don't know, I do have a Discord community that is free to join. There's always a link in the description. And yeah, it's a great community if you have questions about knitting projects, or if you just want a little more intentional of a space to talk about knitting and a bunch of other things. But so I also made for my booth another little shawlette. I feel like it was like the year of shawlettes. I think it's been a couple of years going, but this is called the Turtle Dove Shawl. It is by Sari Nordlund, and I used it holding my Wondrous Sock Base Double. I love these like light lilac purple moments. This is a colorway, it was a one-off called Lavender Wreath, because it has little like blips of like orange sort of, and I wasn't sure, not sure how that happened, why it happened, but I really liked it, but I just wasn't, but it was just kind of a mistake. So a lot of the times I will wear it around my neck, kind of like a little kerchief. I like to do this knot where, okay, so you take one end and you tie the knot, but you don't cinch it, and then you pull the other end through. So it sort of lays flatter than if you were to just tie them in like a square knot. So yeah, it's almost like a tie, sort of, but then it sits like that. And I just think it's so charming. So this is another one that most of the time lives in my booth for shows, and yeah, I kind of adore it. So there's that one. And that's just a fun knit. I love the cabling in that. And then I also, in my yarn, made the Day Tripper shawl. So if you've watched Sibling Energy, you will have heard me talk at length about this, and also heard Tim talk at length about how our friend Cassie designed this. And we were both very eager to cast it on, but I finished mine first. So this is in my yarn Swainio. Again, the main color is in the color Harvest. And then I used it with Spin Cycle's Goldie. I love the way this turned out. I did do the smaller version of the shawl. I think that's perfect for me. I was initially planning on doing the big one, but no, I think this is like exactly what I wanted and needed. And yeah, I've been wearing it throughout December. I think I finished it like right at the beginning of November. And I love the colors. And again, another booth sample. We love to see it. Okay, now we're moving into garments. I don't know. I'm not sure what I would consider like a typical amount of garment knitting for me. The ones that I made this year, I do find that I'm wearing a lot, and at the same time I've been getting a lot of compliments on them. So the first one I did a test knit for, and it is the High Time Tank by Kimberly of Golden Boy Knits, who I have since met and consider a friend, which is very fun. So she I think our mutual friend posted the testing call, and I was like, I need to knit that. And so I applied and I got in, and it is so cool. Look at that. All my Western wear knitting dreams coming true. So it is knit in Mondim, which is one of my favorite fingering weights, and obviously has this amazing fringe on it. I knew that I wanted my fringe to be sparkly as heck. And so I found this like metallic knit yarn from Hobie, and I can't even remember like if it's like Go Handmade is the brand. I don't know. I was just looking up tinsel, and this copper color just like really did it for me, especially with the blue. And blue is not a color that I typically wear a lot of or am drawn to, but I don't know, I just had a vision, and you know what, it worked out. So I had a blast knitting this, although I will say I knit this shirt, and from here, you know, did the entire body. This is like considered a fingering weight, and then went right into this one, which was bottom up, and I was like, this is a lot of stockinette fingering weight in the round. So I was very happy to get to the armhole shaping, and I ended up picking up around the edges and adding like a few rows like for a rolled hem, and I'm really happy I did that. And so the other thing is that this is a knit yarn, like this poly shiny thread. And so I cut it, you know, to do the fringe, and it was unraveling because it, you know, polyester doesn't stick to itself. So I went through every single end, and I just I like melted it with a lighter so that it wouldn't unravel further. So that was not on my bingo card for 2024, to be using flames with my knitting. But there you go. Yeah, I love this top. I don't wear it as much as I thought I would. I think probably because it's blue, but that's nothing like about the design or anything. It's just, it's also like kind of more of a novelty piece. I don't think it has to be, but just, you know, because it's shiny, it ended up that way for me. I also think that maybe I could have gone up a size. I think that's part of it too. So yeah, but every once in a while there's some fun event like Pink Pony Club karaoke or Western dance. Like some of my friends are really into like two-stepping here in Portland, queer two-stepping. And so, you know, there's a time and a place for every piece. And then I started 2024 off with a crochet granny square vest. I was very into granny squares in 2023. I knit a huge blanket, or I crocheted a huge blanket for my sister for Christmas. If you watched last year's Vlogmas, you will have seen that progress. So I wanted to start off 2024 by making myself a little vest. And you know, I was really just making squares at first with this color palette. Again, this is very in line with these kind of like orangey leaning browns. So the outer edge of the vest is in Lannis Light by Barocco, and it is in their color Sandalwood. And then this like fuchsia-y purple-y pink color is Olan Mills that I got when they were going out of business. And then I interspersed a little bit of Spin Cycle, and this main middle color is actually my hand spun. And you can't really tell unless looking really close, but there are pops of this like fuchsia color in the hand spun, which is why I initially paired them together. And I did not follow a pattern. I mean, I looked at images on Ravelry and stuff, but you know, I just wanted to make my own squares. So I charted it out in my notebook, and I did end up adding knit ribbing along the arms and top, and I debated for a long time adding it to the bottom. I ended up not, and I'm happy with that decision. So that was a really fun project to start off 2024 with. So the next project is very symbolic of the year, I think. This is the Sheep Camp sweater by Jennifer Berg. And I knit it in Haley Bailey Classic DK, and then it is the color work color, the contrast color is Acadia by the Fiber Company. So, the Sheep Camp. This was such a long time in the making. Since I moved to Portland, I have gone to Camp Starlight every September, which is a knitting camp outside of Portland, hosted by the yarn store that I work at, Starlight Knitting Society. And every year there's like an unofficial camp sweater. And we had decided the year prior that 2024's camp would be the Sheep Camp. And so Tim and I were both like, you know, we've never knit it before. This is going to be the year that we knit it. And then subsequently, we decided in May to start Sibling Energy, which has been just like such an absolute joy. And yeah, it's opened up a lot of opportunity for Tim and I that I'm just very grateful for. So we were like, let's turn it into a knit along. And we decided to host the first ever Sibling Energy knit along, which was for the Sheep Camp. And so for us, it was us knitting it to have it done at camp. And for those of you who did not know, Tim had about this much left on his second sleeve, and his beautiful bag that he was storing the project in was nabbed from his car. It was just a smash and grab situation. They took his bag with his knitting project in it. And so it was just so devastating. Like, if it were any other project, not whatever, but like, it wouldn't hurt so bad as this one, which was symbolic. of the knit along that we were hosting, of sibling energy, and also the first time that we were really like doing the camp sweater together. It was just like so symbolic of community. And we sort of made it even more symbolic of community because Haley offered to send a color of her yarn to us so that we could re-knit it. And initially I was like, well, maybe we'll just get a bunch of us and pass it along and all knit pieces of it. But our wonderful coworker Susan was like, I'll knit it faster. Just give it to me. And she re-knit the entire sweater for Tim in, I mean, maybe 10 days. And so he had his sweater for camp, and it was just like the sweetest. Yeah. So initially it felt like it was symbolic of like that community being taken away, but in actuality it ended up being like a full circle moment where we really got to see what that knitting community looks like and like just be so grateful for the people that we're in community with. It was really awesome. And then on top of that, it inspired us to consider it our Rhinebeck sweater and sort of like pushed us toward making the decision to go to Rhinebeck. So yeah, it's been a wild year, especially in like sibling energy land, but it's one of the best things that I've done. And so this sweater really feels like it holds a lot of that memory and meaning within it. So the sheep camp. And then last, but certainly not least, of the knits that I have physically here with me, because some were knitted or were gifted, so they're all knit, is my Un sweater. So I feel like this is the sweater that has gotten the most attention this year. Both of these sweaters, the Sunshine Tee and my Un, have definitely gotten the most amount of wear. Now, the Un sweater is knit in Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino in the color Blood Orange, and I held it double with Ritual Dye's Silk Mohair in the color Jewel Weed. I knew going into knitting this sweater that I had to be very intentional about the fit. As a plus size person, I think that first of all, sometimes patterns don't even dare to be oversized for plus size knitters. Like, people get a little scared about offering, I think, comfy, cozy knits for plus size folks. So one of the ways that I planned to knit this oversized project for my plus size body was to make sure that this area fit really well. And so despite the fact that this sweater wants to be oversized, I did pick a size that was pretty similar to my upper bust measurement, not my full bust measurement. And that's typically how I pick sizing when I'm picking a knitting pattern, is by choosing that measurement, because that will ensure that this whole part of the sweater, which is undoubtedly the most important part of the sweater to fit, does in fact look nice and flattering. From there, I just followed the rest of the pattern. Everything is oversized, the sleeves are really big, the body has a split hem, so it also makes the body bigger. One of the other pieces that I was very intentional about is to have some kind of waist definition. Now, you're like, it's an oversized sweater, how can it have waist definition? Well, I made sure that that split hem began right at my natural waist. So when I'm wearing dresses, the part, if I'm wearing a dress with like a full skirt, the part where the skirt starts to be more full is where that opening hits me. Those two things alone made this sweater work so well for me, and I wear it all the time. It is a warm sweater. I sort of wear it almost more as like a coat in some circumstances, or like just like a big cozy oversized sweatshirt. And yeah, I mean, I feel like I've gotten so many compliments, and it's just been like a huge part of my wardrobe this year. I finished it right before summer, so I didn't get a ton of use out of it until this fall, and then I feel like I get compliments on it all the time. I mean, partially just because the color is so good, and it's really trendy right now, this sort of like orangey red. Just like neon orange red, I don't know. I don't consider it a true orange, and I don't consider it a true red. But I've had arguments where people are like, I love your orange sweater, and I'm like, is this orange? But I digress. It's hard to be someone who's like very particular about color in this world. So yeah, this sweater is, yeah, it's great. And it is by November Knits, if I didn't already say that. I also have a couple of things that I knit as gifts that I wanted to touch on. One of which was another like really special community project that I did with my knitting group. One of our own, Riley, was pregnant this year and gave birth to her daughter Sage, and the knitting group got together and made her a blanket. It is a Tin Can Knits pattern, and it turned out so adorable. I organized it and put all the colors together, and then divvied out the skeins for everyone to make the squares, and then I blocked them, and then I had the group come together and seam at my house. So it was a really nice collaborative effort. I think it just turned out so sweet. Riley loves it, and Sage loves it. So that was a really fun project for the last year. I also knit Tim a pair of socks this year with a color that he chose called Hella by La Bien-Aimée. And I was like, I want to put something funny on the side. And I just thought it'd be funny to have a pair of socks that said ew. So the side I duplicate stitched ew so that like when you're wearing them, it's facing out on both socks. And then on the very, very bottom, I very smally duplicate stitched yuck, like right on the heel. So that was a really fun project. I love knitting socks for Tim. I think that's the second pair I've knit for him, and I definitely have more on the docket. Again, with baby knits, I'm just like at the age where everyone around me, family, friends, are starting to have babies, which I'm delighted by, don't get me wrong. And so my cousin Julian and his wife Emily had a baby shower in August. I think it was in maybe September. And the theme was Apple of Our Eye. And it was like a fall themed baby shower with lots of apple motifs. And I had seen this pattern around called the Fruity Slipover. There's different color work options within it to do apples or pumpkins, and so I was like, I want to make that. So I used my yarn in a newer color, which is like a bright red, a little bit of that chartreuse that I used in the Sophie scarf, and my plain white color called Paper Stars, and I made this like adorable little vest. I was like, it's more of a like put it on to take a picture vest than anything, because it's all non-superwash, but the colors were just too cute. And I did perhaps make Julian shed a little bit of a tear, which was very sweet. We had such a good time at the baby shower, and their baby is due very soon, which I am very excited about. So I think that's about everything that I wanted to talk about. I have my list here of all my knit items for the year, and projects that I'm bringing into 2025 that I am not quite done with yet. And yeah, I'm very excited for this year. I'm very excited to see what what happens with my channel, my personal projects, as well as sibling energy. We are debating whether or not to create a whole separate channel for sibling energy or not. I still don't quite have the answer to that. But yeah, thank you so much for being here. If you have any questions about any of the projects, please leave a comment down below. I should have them all linked in the description. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you soon. Bye.